My dear friends, there is a widespread and tragic fallacy in the world today that has haunted the hearts of men and women for generations. It is a belief that has kept millions of souls bound in the heavy chains of limitation and the cold shadows of despair. This fallacy is the persistent idea that the road to prosperity is paved with physical struggle, and that it is built solely by working harder, struggling longer, or pleading desperately with a distant and capricious deity. I am here to tell you today that this is a fundamental mistake of the human ego and a total misunderstanding of the spiritual laws of the universe. You do not need to struggle for that which is already yours by divine right. Please, listen closely to these words and let them sink into the very depths of your being. You are not a beggar at the gates of life. You are not a secondary thought in the mind of the Creator. You are an individual expression of the one divine mind, the same mind that brought the galaxies into being and holds the planets in their orbits. And because you are an expression of that mind, you have a direct, immediate, and legal claim upon the inexhaustible storehouse of the Father. Throughout my many years of observation and spiritual practice, I have seen thousands of sincere, good-hearted people spend their entire lives in what I call begging prayers. They wake up in the morning with a heart full of heavy anxiety. They look at their stacks of bills with a sense of paralyzing dread. And then they cry out to the heavens in a voice of desperation, asking God to send them money, to help them pay a debt, or to save them from the pit of poverty. They wonder with bitter hearts why the heavens seem like cold, hard brass, and why their sincere pleas go unanswered while they continue to sink deeper into the mire of lack. The reason for this failure is simple, yet it remains the most profound secret of the spiritual life. You cannot manifest abundance while your consciousness is fixed on lack. It is a scientific and spiritual impossibility. To pray for money while you are feeling poor is a contradiction in terms that cancels the power of the prayer before it is even uttered. It is like trying to drive a motor car forward while you are firmly holding the gear in reverse. You are not attracting supply. You are simply cementing the condition of not having into the very fabric of your soul. Your feeling of want is a decree to the universe to give you more wanting. Your feeling of lack is a command to the divine substance to manifest more lack in your physical world. Let us consider the story of Antonio, a man who lived in Guadalajara. Antonio was a man of great character and immense work ethic who worked 12 hours every single day in a small, cramped mechanical workshop. The air in his shop was thick with the smell of old oil and the heavy sound of human struggle. Antonio believed the lie that the world had told him since birth, that his sweat was the only true currency of his survival. Despite his constant effort and despite the grease that stained his hands and the deep exhaustion that lined his face, his debts only grew larger. The harder he worked, the further away the horizon of freedom seemed to move. He believed that working more was the only solution to his problems. But the money continued to slip through his fingers like dry sand in a desert wind. He was caught in the trap of the external, looking at the shadow instead of the light. It was not until Antonio discovered the principle of the scientific prayer that the heavy iron gates of his life began to swing open. He realized that the problem was not his workshop, his clients, or the economy of Mexico. The problem was the atmosphere of his own mind. He stopped asking God to give him something he thought he did not have. Instead, he began to practice the quiet recognition of the truth. He began to claim his divine heritage as a son of the living God. He began to realize that the infinite intelligence that runs the stars and moves the tides was the same intelligence that managed his workshop and his finances. Within 3 weeks, the clog in his consciousness was cleared away. It was as if a veil had been lifted from his eyes. Opportunities he had been blind to for many years suddenly appeared with startling clarity. His business did not just grow because he worked more hours. It expanded because his mind had expanded first. He had finally learned the golden key, which is that the world of things is merely a shadow cast by the world of thought. To change the shadow, you must change the position of the light. You must let go of the struggle and realize that it is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. We have done wrong and step into the glorious light of what we can do right. We must ask ourselves the most important question of all: what is the golden key? What is the specific word or state of being that reorganizes the human mind from the frequency of desperate want to the frequency of divine fulfillment? The answer is as simple as it is revolutionary. That word, that vibration, That spiritual atmosphere is thanks. But I must be very clear with you, for I do not mean the hollow, polite gesture or the superficial gratitude that is spoken only after a benefit has been received. I am speaking of the scientific prayer of thanksgiving. This is the deliberate and conscious act of thanking the great source for the supply before it is visible to your physical eyes. It is the recognition that in the realm of spirit, the need and the supply are created at the exact same moment. When you say thank you for your prosperity now, even in the midst of your current challenges, and even when your bank account seems to scream of emptiness, you are making a powerful spiritual decree. You are affirming with the authority of a child of God that the supply already exists in the invisible realm of spirit. Your recognition is the spiritual vibration that allows that supply to crystallize into your material world. This is the law of precipitation. You are not waiting for God to change his mind or for the universe to suddenly notice your plight. God has already given you everything. The sun is already shining. You simply have to open the curtains of your consciousness to let the light in. Consider the story of Lorena, a dedicated nurse in the city of Monterey. Lorena was a woman of great compassion, yet she lived in a state of constant financial restriction. She earned a modest salary that barely covered the basic walls of her life, leaving no room for the dreams she held in her heart. She dreamed of specializing in her field, of becoming more than she currently was, but the money was never there. She felt trapped in a cage of numbers and decimal points. When she began her experiment with this method of scientific gratitude, she admitted to me that she felt strange, almost foolish. She would sit for 5 minutes every single morning before heading to the hospital, and she would say aloud, "Thank you, Divine Mind, because perfect abundance is manifesting in my life right now." At first, her intellect fought her. Her logic told her she was lying to herself. Her bank account balance seemed to mock her, telling her she was losing her grip on reality. But Lorena had learned the great secret that faith is not based on appearances or physical evidence. Faith is the realization of the invisible truth that is more real than any mountain or any debt. Lorena persisted. She refused to look at the not enough and chose to look at the infinite more. After 30 days of this persistent, stubborn gratitude, the impossible became the inevitable. Her reality had no choice but to shift to match her new state of mind. Extra shifts appeared out of nowhere. An unexpected gift arrived from a relative. A scholarship program she had never heard of was suddenly announced. Lorena discovered that the universe responds to your consciousness with mathematical precision. You do not get what you want in this life, you get what you are. If your consciousness is a state of gratitude, you must receive things to be grateful for. This is not a mere philosophy or a comforting thought. It is a law as certain and as gravity. The magic of thanks is that it shifts you from a state of contraction to a state of expansion. When you are afraid and worried about money, your soul is contracted. You are literally closing the door to the very supply you are seeking. But the moment you sincerely give thanks, your soul expands. You become a wide, open channel through which the riches of the divine mind can flow without obstruction. You must realize that you are like a light bulb. The electricity is always in the wires, ready to provide light. But until the bulb is in a state of receptivity, the room remains dark. Gratitude is the act of screwing the bulb into the socket. It completes the circuit between your need and God's supply. This is why I insist that you practice this with the precision of a scientist. Do not wait for the big money to arrive before you start thanking the Father. Thank Him for the air you breathe, for the clothes on your back, and for the very idea of prosperity that is now beginning to take root in your mind. Every time you say, "Thank you," with feeling, you are thinning the veil between the invisible and the visible. You are training your subconscious mind to accept abundance as your natural state. You are erasing the old, dusty records of poverty and replacing them with the vibrant, golden records of divine plenty. Remember that the divine mind knows no lack, knows no recession, and knows no limitation. As you align yourself with that mind through the power of thanks, you step out of the world's economy and into the kingdom's economy, where the supply is always equal to the demand.